Hi, Statesmen Nation. I'm Wade Simley, Assistant Athletic Director here at William Penn, bringing you a special announcement as we have Marc Benavidez here, our new head football coach here at William Penn. Formal introduction / press conference. We're also joined by Nick Rule, Athletic Director here at WPU. Nick, I'm just going to throw it right over to you.
Yeah.
You can talk about the background, how we got ourselves here
Yeah.
as our new football coach.
Yeah, no, thank you, Wade, and thank you to everyone for being here today. And again, a big thanks to everyone of our Statesman faithful. I used to say Statesman Nation as you say, Wade, but realized as we looked at broadcasts in the last year, we had all 6 continents in the world that tuned in to our broadcasts and content. And so Statesman, it's not really Statesman Nation, it's really our Statesman faithful all across the world. And it's through this process, it's been pretty awesome just to see the support from those faithful Statesman fans. And just they've been very engaged and interested in our football process as the announcement came open in November that we would be looking for a new head football coach. And so I'm proud to say we got our guy. I'm really excited about it. We'll get into Coach Benavidez here in a second, but we found someone who's the right leader, someone who's the right fit at the right time for this program, and to take it to being one of the premier programs in the country. Before I go into Coach Benavidez and turn it over to him for his opening remarks, there's some folks we have to thank through the process who have been so supportive and instrumental as we've been searching for our next head football coach for the Statesmen. We had an excellent hiring committee of dedicated staff members at William Penn who were part of the process. Wade was one of those, and so many of our athletic staff that take us a little bit of time to get through them all, but they all know who they are and really appreciate them. Also, a big thank you to all the support from our alumni. It's been honestly overwhelming in a good way to hear from the alumni from all the different areas as we've been going through this process, who reached out offering their support and encouragement. That again just shows that there's a lot behind this program and Coach Benavidez as he goes forward. In particular, I want to thank two special folks from our alumni family on the football side of things that I consider them William Penn football legends, and I think it goes without saying. One was NAI Hall of Famer Bruce Pullen. Bruce reached out and he was fantastic. He's been fantastic for the last year and such, and just being an ear to hear what we're doing, but also being a voice to sharing us what he thinks is right. Someone with that type of experience is amazing, and he was willing to share his thoughts and give advice through this process, and that's very much appreciated. Also, Coach Ron Randleman, the legendary William Penn football coach here. They both offered their counsel and advice, and just we can't say enough appreciation for those two. We had great support from our community as well during the hiring process, and we're assisted in the process with William Penn alumni Gordon Moore, who's also a member of our Board of Trustees, representatives from our faculty, and Jennifer Peterson and Dr. Glenn Steinling. You're not a doctor.
I do get his emails.
Yeah, you do. He's our faculty athletic representative, and then the CEO of Mahaska Health, which is Kevin Durande. He was very instrumental in meeting with our candidates. We also need to thank Mammoth Consulting. They, in particular, Jeremy Capo and Ryan, for their help in conducting our search, and a special thanks to Alicia Rabideau, our associate AD. She was the co-chair of the hiring committee. A few other things here with William Penn President John Otteson, who was instrumental in the search and his continued support and growth for our growth and development in the athletic department. You and Coach will talk about this. You have to have a supportive administration in order to do what we're trying to do here. John Otteson is, I'm not sure there's a more supportive president out there of William Penn and William Penn Athletics. And we're thrilled how the process went. We have incredible momentum on our campus. Within this athletic department, we are a school that's had highest finish in the Learfield Sports Directors Cup in the last 3 years, a school that has been the top 2 of the Commissioners Cup in the last 3 years, and a school that has had more scholar teams in the last 3 years than any time in our program's history. And we couldn't be more excited to have this match with Coach Benavidez. He matches with our university, our vision, our student athletes, our facilities, our culture, a lot of good things going on. So as we started the process, Coach was someone that we identified very early on as a person that we wanted to talk to. As we began the discussions with Coach, it was very clear that his strategic vision, his strategic mind, his work ethic, that success in recruiting, relationship building, and resource use, all of those things were really things that we were looking for, and it was really a match we felt from the start. Coach Benavidez is a championship coach. You don't win championships without having a hunger to be uncommon and delivering on expectations. He had success at Avila. He's a winning coach. He's won Coach of the Year honors with the KCAC and AFCA, 2 KCAC titles. And you also don't win championships without doing the little things. And one of the things we're looking for going forward is someone's going to do the little things and do it right. And that loyalty among his players has been really cool to see too, Coach. So William Penn University is so excited to have Coach Benavidez as our new football coach, the new leader of this esteemed program. The the most historic program in our university's history, and it's a great day to be a Statesman here. So future's bright for our football program. I'm going to turn it over to Coach Benavidez for his opening remarks, but Statesman Nation, you should be very happy with the direction we're going.
Thank you, Nick.
Yep.
First, I just want to start off saying thanks to everybody through the hiring process. Just an unbelievable communication and welcoming atmosphere from Nick, Wade, everybody involved in the entire process, President John Otteson. From the moment I set foot on campus, I felt extremely welcomed. Something in which I truly felt I was with people that were genuine, that wanted to see me be successful and this program be successful. And from that point on, I've just been extremely excited for the opportunity. And it's something where I've been working nonstop since before I was even officially hired to do what we can to get this program to improve and continue on in the future. I can ramble on and say a million things right now. I know we've got some questions, but ultimately I'm excited, grateful for the opportunity, and ready to get to work.
Awesome. All right, Nick, I'm just going to throw it back to you
Yeah.
a little bit. We'll kind of go a little bit back and forth, but this is kind of a process it didn't just start in November, but describe the evaluation process of the football program when it started.
To do here, we're a big believer at the university right now within our athletic department that we want to be successful. We want to be successful at developing people. The 4 years of their life are the settlement for the next 40 years. And so, but listen, we want to be successful. We're all competitive, right? You don't get into athletics if you're not competitive, right? And so just, as we're going through things, we're constantly evaluating everything that we do, whether it's teams, whether it's just our support staff, whether it's, me and our leadership team. Like that constant evaluation is very, very important. It's all about evolution, not revolution. And, a few years ago, we started to see maybe some signs on where that we wanted to start seeing maybe something a little bit different as far as trending in the right direction with our football program. With our facilities, they're some of the best in the business at our level. The resources we have and such, and just some of the success our programs have. And so that conversation really started a few years ago. And it's a collaborative conversation, figuring out where we need to go and such. And then you're coming towards the end of this season. It was just a good, again, collaborative conversation with, our last leadership. And it came to the conclusion that, we need to go in a direction that is kind of fresh. And these things don't happen overnight. And it's very collaborative. You get the right people in the room, and you got to make the right decisions. And we really appreciate, Coach Haft and what he did for over 19 years. Again, this is evolution, not revolution. He was a great leader of our program and turned the program around from some really tough spots in the 90s and early 2000s. So I just think it's a good time for a little bit of a fresh perspective and just some new energy coming into place. And that's how Coach Benavidez from the very start was someone that we felt was going to do that. So.
All right, I neglected to mention we do have Sam Parsons from KVOE, KMZN radio here, as well as Courtney Jackson, a student from New Media here at William Penn as well, and they'll have opportunity to ask questions. I'm going to throw one more at Marc and then kind of open it up for everybody to go. Coach Benavidez, why was this move the right move for you, and what part of William Penn's program was a good fit for you?
Yeah, honestly, I knew from the moment that I was here, just a welcoming atmosphere, and knowing that this entire athletics program and university was aligned to the same focus. Something that I really want to be a part of, something in which, you have an athletic director, you have a president, administrative staff wants to see success on and off the field. And for me, where I was at in my career, I'm ready for a new challenge. And I think, where I was at previously, we're able to have a lot of success, accomplish a lot of things, and I'm looking forward to do whatever I can to get to that point here right now. And so that's big for me.
Either one of you have any questions right away, or I take all your questions?
Let's go then.
I guess so. Sustained winning is something that takes a vision, and we've seen in certain programs here, as well as others in the conference, have been able to achieve that level of being able to win over and over and hold a reputation for being successful. So talk about your vision to start building that sustained winning program that every team has to strive for here on campus.
Right. Well, I would say sustainable success, and Nick somewhat alluded to this, starts with administration and starts with people at the top that are wanting that successful atmosphere. Then from there, ultimately it comes down to the players. And success isn't just wins and losses. Like, that's a big part of it, obviously. I want to win football games. But making sure you've got a culture and environment which your football players are simply doing the right things. that they're aligned, they've got the same goal, they've got the same focus. Something in which you're not going to have a bunch of me guys, you have a lot more we guys. And that starts ultimately with leadership and myself as a head coach and our assistant coaches, making sure they push it, making sure they're holding guys accountable, making sure that we're setting the tone, that we're leading by example. I'm a grinder. I'm the type of guy I'll be here literally 24/7 at times, and I'm not going to ask our players or my assistant coach to do things that I wouldn't do. And I think that's a big reason why we were to have sustainable success at Avila. The fact that I was able to lead by example. And so ultimately administration, which here, hands down, it's been great. And then from there, players win games, coaches lose them. Make sure I put the players in a good position to go be successful. And then on top of that, the off the field aspect, there's a lot of things here where I think there's potentially a lot of room for improvement that ultimately, again, comes down to me and making sure that I can hold guys accountable, that I can make sure I can give them that support. If I've got players that are willing to go run through a brick wall for me because they know I'm going to take care of them, it's going to be a lot easier to win football games in the future.
Can you talk about what your early impressions are of the team as it stands right now? Is this a team that you think is sort of in a rebuilding phase, or do you think you guys are ready to compete right now from what you've seen?
Yeah, I don't think rebuild is probably the best word. I definitely think this team could compete. It's a long way right now to try to get instantly to where Grandview might be, for an example. That's something where they've been established and they've had a bunch of success in the past. But where we're at right now as a roster, there's constant evaluation. Same thing with coaches, constant evaluation. We're at with facilities and resources and equipment. Like there's constant evaluation in which there's some things we've got to fix. And Nick has used the phrase quite a bit this last couple of weeks, low-hanging fruit. I think there's a lot of opportunities in which we can improve on, and I don't want to say improve on easily, but potentially improve on fairly quickly. And on-field success is definitely one of them. Before I was even truly through the interview process, I did a good amount of research, watching live streams, watching game film, seeing what I thought may have been some issues. And then as I learned more, as I talked to administration, coaches, players, all this stuff, I feel like some of those things I was already kind of seeing start to kind of make sense, why this might have happened. And so I'm very confident this team can turn around fairly quick.
You guys go for just a second?
Yeah.
Go ahead. If you're ready, Courtney, go ahead.
Oh, sure. Kind of just, I guess, to follow up on what you just talked about. You've seen film, you've seen how this William Penn team plays. You're a really big offensive coach, and this offensive team runs like an old-fashioned offense. So talk about just what you think you can bring in that's new and brings more energy, so that next year these teams aren't going to be seeing the same William Penn offense they've seen in the past.
Right. So a year ago, William Penn kind of transitions their true offensive scheme. And during that year-long process, there's still a lot of guys on this team that they need simply more development to try to get to what they've done in the past. For me, over these last couple weeks, meeting the coaches, I've told them I don't even want to think about talking about scheme. Like that's very important, but ultimately it comes down to players. And for me, if I don't have a single person that can catch a football, then I need to kind of adjust what I'm doing. And that goes the same thing with defense, special teams, and everything. We've got to make sure we've got schemes that are aligned with the talent personnel we've got on the field. Short term. Now, long term, a lot of it, again, comes down to recruiting and getting certain players that we think will fit our ultimate scheme. I'll use the term multiplistic simplicity when it comes to offense. I want to have it so our offense looks very, very multiple, very extravagant, but ultimately our guys are not having a whole lot of mental execution errors. We're keeping it simple for them. We're making it look like extravagant and having all these different motion shifts, formations for the defense, but at the same time our players aren't overthinking it. I can just go let great football players go out there and play. So when it comes to overall offense, I can't tell you exactly what we're going to be running, but I've got a good idea. It just depends on who we got.
Have you had any conversations with any of your players yet about what things are going to be like over the next year or so, or is that something that you're going to be doing in the near future?
Yeah, I've had a little bit. I've only met face-to-face with a handful of guys. With us starting school on Monday, obviously a good amount of people aren't in town right now, and so I'm definitely looking forward to it. My plan is to have a team meeting early next week and kind of talk about some basic expectation standards, talk about what we've got going on in the weight room here, and then honestly try to have as many one-on-one conversations as I possibly can. I know when you have a large group setting of 100 people, whatever it might be, there's gonna be a lot of times where guys are just might be to themselves and might not kind of bring up where things have been in the past. And like I said earlier, evaluation is gonna be very vital. I want to see what these guys liked about what they've done in the past, what they didn't like. I know talking to other support staff about academics, and I've got a good amount of ideas of things that we can implement fairly early on to improve. But ultimately, I want to have as many one-on-one conversations as I possibly can. And I've done some through phone, through text, huddle messages, all this stuff. It's just night and day whenever I can see a person face to face.
Jumping on top of that, talking about your first changes you made, obviously you want to meet with the team next week. Other things that you're doing in the first 30 days. I mean, we're getting close to about the 30 days. Unfortunately, it's all been over break, but first 30 days, 90 days, et cetera.
Right. During the interview process, I really had a true timeline, and I've got a 5-year plan already in place at this point. Instantly, the best recruits we have are the current players on the team. Those are the biggest guys. And then from a timeline standpoint, I mentioned earlier, I've got a good amount of potential mid-year transfers that I've already been in contact with since December, since this transition already started happening, and trying to get those guys all accepted into school, get their FAFSA, all this stuff done in a timely manner. Again, Madison and Kelsey and admissions, financial aid have done an outstanding job trying to help me out in that regard. Then going from there, we've got to make sure the guys we have here are put in a position to be successful. And there's a lot of things that it's hard for me to truly evaluate until everything's in place and people are truly on campus and here. But short term, I've got to make sure they're in a position where they're being held accountable and they're given resources in the classroom and resources in the weight room with strength conditioning and sports performance. And so those are some of the more immediate needs on top of simply having a true recruiting plan going forward. I mean, we're to an extent somewhat behind when it comes to recruiting, and we've already reached out to the vast majority of Iowa high schools and seen what potential recruits might be out there locally.
Yeah, definitely. Need to acknowledge that last one came from Kaylin McGee from KTVO. Try to do better about that in the future. This next question is from Joey McWilliams from Midwest Sportsnet. You talked about recruiting being possibly a little bit behind the 8 ball, but where are you currently in the overall recruiting process?
Yeah.
You already talked about it a little bit, but maybe delve in a little bit.
Right. No, yeah. That kind of goes with staff. There's already been some staff turnover, and so naturally you're going to be somewhat behind when it comes to recruiting. I am very big into actually going into local high schools and meeting with coaches. I am not as familiar with Iowa high school coaches as I'd like to be, and so short term, that is without a doubt the biggest focus. We are nowhere near where we'd like to be at this point in time. However, with that being said, the recruiting process at an NAIA school has, kind of backed up a little bit with NCAA. Naturally, we're going to be, behind D1, D2, all these different level programs. But with the transfer portal, there are a lot of kids that are typically available after signing day that in the past wouldn't have been available. And so we've got a strategic plan at this point in time to go on recruiting trips, to meet with some of the connections I've established the last few years, and extremely excited to get on the road and get some kids here.
You guys for just a second? Okay, I'm going to switch over, give you a little break here, Coach. Nick, talk about the interest in the job, however you want to talk about that, but then what set Coach Benavidez apart from the group?
Yeah, I mean, when we knew it was going to be an attractive position because, again, when you're going through evaluation, you start having conversations. The AD world is really close. And so, I have some people that I'm very close with that I confide in, and, these are kind of the direction it looks like we're going. What do you think our job looks like? And they're like, it's a sleeping giant. And so immediately, just within a few hours of the announcement, it was overwhelming the amount of applications we had come in. So that's when we worked with Mammoth Consulting to help us with the hiring process. So at the end of the day, we were probably approaching 300 applicants. And we had some really, really talented folks that were interested in the job. They applied for the job. Other head coaches of programs that are really good at our level. Coach Benavidez stood out for a number of different reasons. You got to be strategic in this world, right? You got to be willing to constantly evolve, right? And as we were having conversations with him, at the Division I level, you just got a bunch of full scholarships to give out, and just that's your strategy. We have to be strategic in being able to compensate our student athletes, and also at the end of the day, at small schools, your sports are enrollment drivers, right? And so the understanding that Coach had as far as how that process works was next level. And really, I think he's going to be an asset to our department, other coaches as well, on just some of that strategic mindset. He was very good on that. Not to mention the tangibles, just about what he had done at Avila and being able to do there with maybe some fewer resources, and just that strategy behind everything. Like, the one thing I appreciated about him is like there was really something. It seemed like there was a purpose behind every decision that was made. Every little thing, there's a purpose behind it, and that's value. You can't fly by the seat of your pants in this industry, and so that was very attractive. And so as soon as we brought him in, and we had a Zoom and such, and had some phone conversations. We called a lot of people about him. Everything came back just very complimentary. And then when he was here, it just felt right. Like, as soon as he's on campus, we were actually in just another room, just a short walk away here with a dinner crew that we had that Gordon Moore was a part of, and Kevin Durande, folks I mentioned before. And just the way that he answered their questions, it wasn't just here's an answer. It was here's the answer, here's why, and here's what I think we can do. And it was very clear that he'd done a lot of research on us. He knew what we were about, and he was very well prepared. And at the end of the day, we could clearly understand his vision for here. And we want to be successful. And you got to have someone that's also willing to work. And so a lot of times that I've left maybe 7, 8 o'clock, in the last few weeks since he's been here, and he's still grinding away downstairs. And I'm like, okay, all right. And sometimes it takes just that extra work too. So there was a lot through it, big question to answer with all those, but it was people were very interested in the position. But we were very early on, had our eyes on him. And then when he came to campus, it was very clear that there's some synergy here. He can work well with us. He's really got an understanding of what he wants. And we were recruiting him just as much as he was recruiting us. And at the end of the day, he's here, and he's our next leader, and we couldn't be more excited about it. So,
Coach, I'm going to throw it back to you. That same question, during the hiring process, what was your first impressions of everything, and what made you want to be here? I mean, you've talked a little bit about
Right.
it, that it felt really comfortable and everything, seemed to align, but just I'm going to add a little more to that.
Right. Obviously, facilities, all this stuff, the resources, great, and night and day compared to what I've experienced or used in the past. But that's not really how you win. That's not how you're successful. We were able to have a lot of success and win in the past without indoor and all this stuff. It only comes down to the people. And like I said, every single person I came in contact with was extremely welcoming. I felt like during the interview process, it wasn't just Nick. It wasn't just a couple people who knew who I was. Just about everybody knew who I was and knew about me or knew about my wife or whatever it might have been. And, I really got that sense that this place wanted me to be successful. And that was absolutely huge. For me personally, my wife is from the state of Iowa, and we love the fact that we can be closer to family. And I love this area. We're hoping to start a family here sometime soon ourselves. And just the location, it kind of seemed like ultimately the perfect fit. All the stars aligned. And, again, this past year at Avila had an unbelievable year, something which we faced a lot of adversity early on, ended up making the playoffs, all this stuff. But, I feel like this is a place that they want to do whatever we can to get to that same level, which is why I'm, again, extremely excited. And while I'm pulling some late nights and early mornings to get the transition rolling.
and way to just follow up on that, fit is important, right? And fitting into what we're trying to do here. Another thing that we're going through the process, football coach is a very important position in your athletic department. There's no doubt about that. We don't want someone who's just going to come in and not have the energy to help us evolve as well. That position's important. And so just through the conversations, and then even in the last, month essentially is just, there are some ideas that he's willing to bring to the table to us because, listen, we don't have all the answers on things. Like, it's about evolution, as we talked about. And so if you can bring new ideas to the table, it's going to make us better. And sometimes we're going to be able to do it, sometimes we're not. But I appreciated that as well through the hiring process, just some of the ideas that we were able to get. Because at the end of the day, we want to be good across the board. And we need everyone all in to be able to provide that insight, that subject matter expertise. And because when you get in a coaches meeting and a staff meeting, you got maybe in some cases almost 80 people in the room. Those are 80 different brains, 80 different minds, 80 different mindsets, 80 different perspectives on everything. Having people feel like they can come and have that conversation helps us get better. And we felt that with him too. So,
Coach, Nick just talked about a little earlier about the success that you had over at Avila. What are some of the things that you'll be taking from that experience that you had in Avila that you think that you'll be able to apply here at William Penn?
Yeah, I think a big one is making sure you just give football players a good experience. Put them in a position, in an environment where they're enjoying what they're doing, regardless of if they're the guy on the field or not. And also understand that we're going to put those guys in a position where they care about the team and not just themselves. You want to have it where, especially early on, if you're consistently not winning a whole lot of games, you want to make sure guys are going to do what they got to do to go win football games. But outside of that, especially in the spring, so most immediately, like, we're going to have to do a lot of work. As coaches, we're going to do a lot of work. Myself going to do a lot of work. Players are going to do a lot of work. But I also want those guys to understand that that's a big part of college football. You know, I'm not straight business 24/7. I'm a jokester, like to have fun. But ultimately, you know, win football games, you've got to be able to overcome adversity. And we want to make sure we're putting those guys in a position this spring to go do that. And that's something that early on in the process at Avila 2018, we had to do a lot to make sure we're pushing our kids to be prepared to overcome adversity. And if we're down by 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, know that, shoot, this guy's got my back. We're gonna go get it done. And outside of that, hopefully as we continue on, we'll be able to build that culture to where we'll have it where our players are the best leaders on the team, the players are the best recruiters on the team, the players are the ones that are getting the job done. And us as coaches, we can push them and make sure they're pushing each other.
Very good. Talked a little bit about staffing before. Let's talk a little more about that. Where are you currently at? I know there are a couple positions open. So, you know, how's that whole process going?
Yeah. Again, a big evaluation period for the guys that are currently here right now. We currently have, I believe, 3 to 4 positions open. I've been in contact with a good amount of people. Right now, it's kind of coming down to logistics of seeing what those guys can do in terms of leaving their current employer, as well as their wives and their wives' employers, and all these different things we've got to worry about as grown adults here. And so, getting close to potentially pulling the triggers on some guys, and the guys here on staff, nothing but respect for all the stuff they've been able to do. And a number of guys, you know, right now everybody's still here, you know. And I was fortunate / unfortunate to go to coaching convention and drive 15 plus hours in a van there and 15 plus hours back. And so we got to know each other. And regardless of really what happens, you know, it's something that I want to do whatever I can to make sure we've got guys here that are going to set our players up for success. And so it's a big part. I'm not in a position to, you know, try to get something done in 1 second. You know, this is not a quick fix type deal. And so, you know, we've got a little bit of wiggle room with time and hoping to kind of get some things finalized here next couple weeks or so.
Sure, that's fine. All right, switching conferences, you did play within the Heart, you did coach within the Heart. Now you're coming from the KCAC. What challenges do you expect in switching conferences? Was a question from Ken Alsop of Osco's News.
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, I played and I was assistant coach. I was offensive coordinator in this conference. So I've got a good amount of experience. When you look at the teams, there's been turnover. So just from a schematical standpoint, there's been a good amount of turnover since 2017. Yep. The conference I was just in, there was 5 new head coaches last year. And Avila was one of two schools that had the same OC, DC, and head coach. So we had to deal with creating systems that really, regardless of what you're going against, you had somewhat answers for, and base ways to teach your football players how you're trying to accomplish certain things. And so top to bottom, this is a really good conference. You know, I mentioned Grandview earlier. A big part of the success in some of these teams is simply coaching. Yep. And you know, not just the head coach, but assistant coaches and how they recruit and what they do from a positional standpoint and game planning. And so I've got to make sure, again, it kind of ties in with the staffing question. I got to make sure I've got guys here that can help support me. Ultimately, I'm going to be a grinder, but we've got a lot of areas to fix. And it's not just, even though I'm an offensive guy, not just offense. You know, special teams, I don't necessarily think special teams are going to win you games, but special teams will definitely lose you games. And there are some big flaws we saw last year, and we're hoping to kind of fix all that stuff up. So collectively, again, tough conference. You know, we've got to do whatever we can to win, and it all starts with me.
And wait, just to touch on Ken also, Ken can't be here today. Oski News, the founder of Oski News, he's covered our university for quite some time. Just best wishes out to him. He had a heart attack in the last month and recovering from that, and he wishes he could be here today. And he called me earlier just saying that, but just want to give him thoughts and prayers out to Ken as he recovers from a scary situation. So,
Thank you, Nick. You guys have anything? I'll keep going. Okay. This came from Corey Thorpe of NAI Football. Said, how can you leverage the long history of William Penn and its alumni to your advantage? Obviously, just throwing in there, I mean, Avila football, 20-ish years of Avila football, but versus 120 plus years of William Penn football. So a lot of people, obviously not all still alive, but
Right.
a lot of people that are going to have your back and want to see you succeed.
Right. Again, being successful, a lot of it comes down to resources, and not necessarily just money or finances, but what opportunities you can have to better the players, the student athletes. At Avila, like you said, 20 something years of football, and so not a huge alumni base, but even despite that, we wanted to do whatever we could to engage alumni and also get it to where alumni would help out with internships and help out with jobs for our players. And that's something to be very vital for me. I had Ben Sherman came to my office a few days ago and talking about his excitement. I've gotten texts and emails from different guys I've never met that just talk about their excitement and their willingness to help out. And I haven't gotten to fully meet with Advancement and everybody here yet, but I'm extremely excited to talk about what opportunities and different ideas we potentially can do to engage them. But I'm extremely excited for that aspect too, just simply be able to speak with those guys and see where they're at in terms of overall helping the student athletes. Again, it all comes down to the players and making sure we're put them in a position to be successful on and off the field, and having those resources all across the country, all in 6 continents or whatever it might be, is something that's going to be advantageous for the football players we got right now on the team, and I'm extremely excited about it.
I've got a quick question for Nick, real quick. You mentioned in your opener just the support and interest from the alumni and Statesmen faithful. Can you just expand on that? What is the interest been like from the Oskaloosa community, from the Statesmen faithful, and just the general response to this football program, the desire to reach new heights?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would have to pick in the last few years when I'd go to a grocery store, because I get questions about it, right? You have this high level of interest in what's going on here. We track ticket sales very closely. In the last few years, we have a 20% more people from the 52577 zip code coming to our games. I mean, there's momentum, right? There's interest. We want our student athletes to feel like they can go onto the field and be successful. We want our fans to feel like it doesn't matter who we're playing, that we have a chance to win that football game, and also that those student athletes have a chance to win at life. I mentioned the grocery store because literally, there were times if I was in a hurry, I had to be careful when I went, and I go to the grocery store at 10 o'clock sometimes at night just because not that I don't want to talk to people. I'm more than happy to talk to people all the time, but those questions, without fail, would be, what's going on in football? What are you thinking about doing? And then in the last month, it's been maybe some more fun conversations about hey, who are you going to hire? Where are you at in the process? And since we've hired Coach Benavidez, it's just an outpouring of support. Guy looks legit, and he is legit. So it's been really, really exciting to see the support from the community. Tons of interest in it. I think just some more energy and such. Sometimes change is a good thing, right? I think that will lead to people being very interested in, all right, there's something new going on here, and coming out to games and supporting the teams even a little bit more. And then just the alumni part, it was just a reminder of a William Penn alum myself. It was just a reminder that people care a lot, care enough to go on the website, find my email, and send an email of just support, not asking anything, just saying, hey, Swallowing behind you. Phone calls, as I mentioned, from some of our legends. Guys that I went to school with that played football here that still have my number that are texting me, and I'm like, oh, gosh, I got to remember who this is, right? Those are really good things. So we just feel a ton of that momentum and interest. And anytime people care, whether they're asking questions about what's not right or asking what we're going to do, it means they care. I'd rather have those questions and feedback, positively or critically, than no feedback at all. Because if people aren't talking to you, that means they don't care. And what I learned through this process in the last few years, and specifically in the last month and a half, we got a lot of dang people that care here.
I just have one more question here, and this it piggybacks on top of what Sam just asked, but this also came from Ken also of Moscow News. Obviously, you just got here on campus and then during breaks, and that probably opportunity to meet a lot of people, but how do you feel like the reception has been so far within staff, with faculty, with the community at large so far here?
It's been overwhelming. Similar to Nick going to grocery stores. I've gone to Hy-Vee, Walmart, whatever, a handful of times, and not even worn William Penn stuff, and people know who I am. Extremely welcoming. The basketball game the other night, ringing the bell. Being in a position where, I'm a new guy, and people want to help me out. An example, last night I was in financial aid until probably 6 o'clock, just going over certain things and asking Alicia, spending too much time asking certain people certain questions on how the processes work here, and everybody's been all about spending as much time as needed to help me out. And so, extremely appreciative of all of it. And, something I didn't really necessarily mention earlier, nothing but for respect for what Coach Hafner was able to accomplish here. He had reached out to me and offered help. I mean, that's how welcoming everybody has been here. And, a big reason, I'm almost getting goosebumps right now, a big reason why I'm here is just, like I said earlier, the people.
Awesome. Nick, anything additional you want to add?
No, it's a great time. Again, this is the third time I'm going to say it, but it's evolution, not revolution. What Coach had talked about, just Coach Hafner. Coach Hafner was a friend of all of ours, and I've talked to him a few times, since he stepped aside, and we got a great foundation here, right? And we know we can be successful. It's those little things and fresh eyes, fresh energy, and just this unique approach to doing the uncommon things. We talk about doing uncommon things all the time in our department. And in the world that we're in college athletics, that's what it's going to take. And just couldn't be more excited. I can't wait for football season. It's a long ways away, but it's going to get here quick, and I can't wait to continue to work with Coach here. It just feels like we've been about less than a month, and it feels like it's been months in a good way. Like it's collaborative, it's process driven to an extent, it's solution minded, but it's also like whatever it takes. And if you want to be good and you want to be successful at everything you do, you got to be willing to do whatever it takes, and that's what we have here. And we have that in our department, we have that in our football program, and I think our alumni are going to be very proud, and I'm very proud as a Statesman today. It's a great day to be a Statesman, and I just can't wait for football season.
Awesome. Okay. As we close out, I want to thank Nick again for all his leadership during this process. Welcome Coach Benavidez as our new football coach, and thanks to all the individuals that were here, Sam Parsons of KVOE, KMZN, Courtney Jackson from the media division here on campus, as well as several people that couldn't make it, Marc from WHO Channel 13, Kellen McKee of KTVO, Ken Alsop, News, Joey McWilliams of Midwest Sportsnet, and Corey Thorpe of NAI Football that all gave us additional questions to ask Coach Benavidez and Nick. So once again, as Nick always says, and as I love to reiterate, it's a great day to be a Statesman. We're excited for Coach Benavidez and everything that's coming down the pipe. It'll all be on statesmanathletics.com, the new look at statesmanathletics.com, as well as all of our social media accounts as well. But definitely follow Coach Benavidez on Twitter as well.
He's a good follow.
He's a good follow, for sure.
Yeah, he's a good follow.
So, all right. Well, thank you, everybody, and we will catch you next time. Go Statesmen.
Yeah, go Statesman.
Go Statesman.